Real social justice is far too important to be entrusted to a group of far-left activists and zealous believers who want to radically transform society according to ideas from neo-Marxism and postmodernism. Woke ideology is a belief system that combines these lines of thought in the pursuit of liberation in place of freedom. In reality, any belief system that limits freedom of thought and open inquiry and is opposed to objectivity in the scientific method is bound to lead us away from progress, not toward it. Woke social justice ideology has turned into something like a new religious cult. It's the kind of religious cult whose beliefs are hostile to reason, disconfirmation, and disagreement of any kind.
We all have some form or another of privilege. Why does that mean we should kill ourselves?
Because you have white privilege.
It is common to believe that this is actually just a minor problem, and one we are now exaggerating. After all, aren't these just radicals in the university? Why should we be concerned about this ideology? Since about 2010, this new woke religion has spread into every corner of society and has started to change how we think and speak about many social issues. Woke social justice activists want us to reform the way we see every aspect of society, and even reality itself. Objective and rigorous standards together with capitalism are ultimately what it wants liberation from.
And I think it's a mistake to assume that we can combat racism by leaving capitalism in place.
Our new perspective must be based on their sacred texts. These texts, written by people like Judith Butler, Richard Delgado, Ibram X. Kendi, and many more, act like scripture for the woke believers. Their scripture tells us to trade in logic and objective knowledge for subjective, lived experience. And the more oppressed a person is, the more they get to say what is true.
People who decide one day they're male, next day they're female, next day back to male, I think it's ridiculous.
That's because you're a cis straight man.
People's identities determine how they view the world according to this gospel. There is no need to resolve any contradictions that result from two conflicting lived experiences. We simply need to take it on faith that the more oppressed person has greater access to what is true.
We are not oppressed.
People of color can be operants of white supremacy if they're not checked.
This scripture is sometimes called the truth according to social justice, and you are not allowed to question it. There is one option: to believe. If you don't believe all of this scripture, that simply means you haven't fully understood it or you haven't read the text thoroughly enough. Disagreeing makes you a heretic. Speaking out against the woke worldview is blasphemy. And anyone who is white, and especially male, is born with an original sin, and that sin cannot be absolved.
You're a fucking white male!
Nobody has to save you because you're a fucking white man!
There is no redemption in this new religion, and there is no room for doubt. There is just relentless change toward the liberated future when society and the state have been perfected by woke activism. Perpetual revolution until the end of history, which you have to be on the right side of. The rigid and dogmatic beliefs that make up woke ideology will only lead us backwards to more divisiveness and toward the general decay of our society. It's already happening. It operates under the banner of social justice, but this new woke religion does not further the noble aims of the original civil rights movement. The civil rights leaders appealed to liberal values, which suggested that group identity ultimately shouldn't matter. And the movement helped us start removing barriers in society so all groups would be seen as equal. One of their most famous slogans was, "I am a man," which took the identity signifier out of the equation. The focus was on universal human rights, something that unites all of us rather than divides us. But woke social justice is obsessed with hierarchy and with who can score the most points for being the most oppressed.
Being a black gay man, you really start to see how whiteness operates even in spaces of inclusion and diversity.
It, following the model developed by Karl Marx, divides the world between the oppressor and the oppressed. And the oppressed need to rise up and fight, and even destroy the oppressor. This kind of social justice is undermining the good that the civil rights movement achieved by its obsession with various competing identities. We should focus on higher-level, unifying identities, like the fact that we're all human beings, we're all Americans. As Americans, whether liberal, moderate, or conservative, we all need to push back against woke ideology, because if we don't, its corrosive nature will continue to eat away at the progress we've made, much like a cancer spreading throughout society, weakening and destroying everything it comes in contact with.